Nice to be back.
Same here.
A formal introduction for Professor Drechsler. Professor Drechsler is currently the Professor and Chair of Governance at the Ragnar Nurkse School of Innovation and Governance at Tallinn University, Estonia. He is also the co-director of its Graduate Technology Governance Program, the Vice Dean of Relations for the Faculty of Social Sciences. In civil services, Wolfgang Drechsler had been advisor to the President of Estonia, the Executive Secretary with German Mission Craft during the German reunification, and as an APSA Congress Fellow, Senior Legislative Analyst in the United States Congress, etc. First to its credit, Wolfgang Drechsler has been a consultant to the several international institutions such as the OECD, the Council of Europe, Sigma, the World Bank, EU, etc. He has received the Estonian National Science Award, the social science category, the Alina Brunovskova Award for Teaching Excellence for 3 continuous years, the Outstanding Alumnus Award, and is also the annual Harold Rowe Endowed Lecture for an NISP AC Merit Award. Professor Drechsler has got varied interests that is very much reflected from the degrees that he holds. Professor Drechsler's area of scholarly interests include public administration, technology and innovation, non-Western, especially Chinese and Islamic philosophy, public administration, e-governance, municipal autonomy. He retains a very active interest in political and economic philosophy. Over to you, Professor Drechsler. Professor Drechsler, a kind request, before you start off for a minute or two, could you also detail and give the geographic profile of Estonia?
Everybody can understand me, and it's a great honor, pleasure, and privilege to address this audience. I was very grateful for the invitation, and I'm very happy to talk a bit about at the end of a very interesting conference about not only the positive things, but also the negative and, if you will, the neutral things you learn from Estonia. Indeed, from Western countries, I would think that Estonia is the most advanced as far as e-governance is concerned. That means it's the furthest in the world as far as unification of governance is concerned. And so I think that Estonia is a very good place to look at, not to transfer anything. Transfers are of no interest to public policy, but to learn, and again, to learn both from the good and from the bad. While doing so, I will indeed start with a small introduction, of whom you now have, of course, heard from Dr. Kuhn already, as far as Estonia is concerned. So let me try to share the slides. I'll try from the back where this works. Tell me what it does. No? It's coming? Wait. What is it for this? So, here, now. It's a bit delayed as I see, so I have to do this slowly. So, can anybody see the starting screen? And you can also hear me, obviously. Okay, so that is why I call my lecture E-Governance in the Land of Sky, Best Practices and Evolutionary Lessons from Estonia. And I'll just do the lecture through, and then there will be some time for discussion when I'll come online with things again. So, to briefly introduce Estonia, can you already see the next slide, or is it still? Okay, because if I see it on the screen, there is a certain delay. So you see that of the West, if you will, Estonia is the radical northeast. It's a very small country with 1.3 million inhabitants. Although it is actually not that small as far as the size is concerned for European nations. It's about as big as the Netherlands or even Denmark, but it's very loosely populated, and it has a negative birth rate, which has its advantages, also its disadvantages. disadvantages, but overpopulation is certainly not a problem. Now, if you look at the world map, you see Estonia up there, and India down there, and Estonia is so small that there's a circle around it so that you can see it, but that tells you something about the location. It's often been said that Estonia is the only post-socialist Scandinavian country, and that, I think, describes it rather well. Estonia has a very, very large coast with many islands, as well as many unused bogs and moors. It has the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the medieval city of Tallinn, the best preserved Hanseatic city of them all. And Tallinn is also a very modern city, and it's art, a banking, and the harbor center. So this is the typical site of Tallinn, which has a very, very high life quality, which on the other side also has its very modern side that makes life very, very interesting. Tallinn does make an interesting side effect. Tallinn was recently called by the World Health Organization the most healthy large city in the world. And myself spent the whole term as a visiting professor in Beijing in China, which you might know is one of the most unhealthy cities in the world. And so if you come to Estonia for a study trip or for consulting or just holidays, it's really like a spa holiday because the air even down the home is so good. This is a nice touch. The rest of Estonia is quite rural, and there is, from a development perspective, a certain balance between the large, very successful metropolis and the rest of the country, which is very pretty, but of course not very rich. Estonia was always a battleground and usually not independent. It was conquered by the Brothers of the Sword, the subsection of the Teutonic Knights, and had developed their story before as a German Persian class. It was then in the early 18th century conquered by Peter the Great, Tsar of Russia, and part of Russia for almost a quarter of a thousand years. It became briefly independent between 1918 and, the end of the time between the wars. Then it saw German invasion, Russian invasion, and a couple of fights over it, which was a big problem, and for most of the second part of the 20th century, Soviet Union. In 1990-1991,
Sorry, Professor Drechsler, there is some slight disturbance in the audio system. Is it possible to slightly moderate and probably speak nearer? There's a lot of disturbance in the audio system.
Okay, I have a direct Logitech mic here and no statics whatsoever that I hear, and also nothing in parallel. I don't know how to change anything there.
You can kindly be a little closer to the laptop, that's all.
No, it's a big system with a cam and a built-in mic. I cannot actually change anything, unfortunately.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience.
Does it now work?
It's now better.
Okay. Maybe if I remove this one. Okay, how is it now? Does it work?
Would you kindly repeat?
Yes, well,
It is better now, right.
Yeah, I was asking whether it's working. If you can't understand me, obviously it's not working.
It is working.
Okay, then check again if it doesn't work. There is really unfortunately not that much I can do about the setup because it's not movable. Anyway, so Estonia regained independence in 1990-1991, and very, very soon afterwards, that means in 2004, became a member both of NATO and of the European Union. So this is a very important European Union country by now, because of its achievements, not of its size. And in fact, on 1st January 2011, Estonia joined the Eurozone. Right now, it is the only country in the Eurozone that meets Europe's own criteria for a stable euro, as far as the debts are concerned. So in that sense, it's a bit the poster child of the stable euro. The fascinating thing about Estonia is its combination of the modern and the traditional, the medieval and the wild, if you will. But what you have to see is that we have a country in Estonia which was for a long part of the Russian Empire. It was, in spite of the German aristocracy, not very well known. And so one of the main tasks of the government when Estonia became independent was to build a government from scratch, not based on traditions, and to position itself in a positive way. And that was done by conscious decision to establish e-Estonia, that means a concentration on e-governance, not only for efficiency and effectiveness sake, but also because that would make Estonia look very good. And so that meant that it was really easy to politically promote e-governance in this way. The current president of Estonia, Thomas Hendriklides, didn't start this governance in Estonia, but promotes it very strongly. We will very soon have the state orders given, and a very large number actually goes to e-entrepreneurs and e-governance people, because that is really one of his priorities, much more than politics. In this modernist positioning, Estonia placed itself very similar to Catalonia, the northeastern part of Spain, with the capital of Barcelona, which is one of the three other big European success stories in governance. Again, the main reason not being policy measures, but to look very modern. In the case of Catalonia, not to look Spanish, but not to look Madrid, but to look at themselves. In Estonia, in a way, that is the same as far as the legacy of Russia is concerned. So this is something, on the other hand, Estonia could very well build on a couple of bases for its governance, including e-business and e-commerce. The most important one, perhaps, e-banking. This is the largest Estonian bank, the former Hansa Bank, now owned by the Swedish Swedbank. Estonia jumped from a cash society directly into e-banking, and e-banking was very normal for everybody well before e-voting or any e-governance. So Estonia never had checks, no bank transfers, but really from cash, it was only banking. Now, if you are used to e-banking, you have no problem in accepting e-governance, because there is a certain trust in them with which you can work. And the most important success story of the innovation in entrepreneurship is Skype, which was invented by 3 Estonian boys and then marketed by 2 Swedish guys, but the writing of Skype is these 3 Estonians, and R&D and marketing division of Skype, even if it is now Microsoft, is still in Estonia, in fact in Tallinn, in the building right next to us, the Nurkse school. So that also gives you a certain image of what is possible by IT, and it gives a certain pro-entrepreneurial atmosphere. As you might imagine, the first generation people who work with Skype, not only the inventors, are also very well to do, and many of them invested the money they made into new startup companies and into venture capital associations. So this was also very important. What is very important in this sense is that Estonia, long after the US or England for that, is a very neoliberal country, very strong understanding of individuality that goes farther than in a lot of other places. And because of that, taxation, for instance, is anyway very simple. You do not try to change the social structure through taxation. If you do that, then it's very helpful, because it can simplify simple things very much. Now, a few of the Estonian achievements, and what you have here is a typical Estonian thing. The slides that are not from me, but from an Estonian website, a government website that promotes Estonian e-governance. And so they put PowerPoint slides, you can just take and copy paste and show a presentation such as this one. And so see here Estonian card about the convention, that is very, very important for the access, because the point will need to be able to identify who's at the other side of the screen. The ID card was introduced in 2002. More than 90% of the as one. It is really the national ID with an electronic ID function. It's compulsory for our residents, and if you ask me how can it be compulsory for all and only more than 90% have one, I can explain it well. I would imagine that everybody has one. It contains the information on the card that you see, and it's very, very safe, including the national code. But it also has an authentication certificate. That means you can digitally sign, you can digitally vote, everything like that. What is very important is that both public and private places must accept the signed document. They can't request a classical paper document with a signature, which is in Germany, but in Estonia not allowed. The latest is of course mobile ID, that means agree to sign anything with a special SIM card, valid in a certain way, and that is very important as we see later, because amongst other things, so many more people have a mobile phone than a laptop. Here you see a couple of things are supplied the services, including the check of your bank account, the business register, in which you can check by whom any given corporation or firm is actually owned. As I said, tax and customs code, you can put your income declaration online in Estonia, e-health, which will work a little bit later, and so on. If you look at the information society indicators in Estonia, all schools and government organizations are ICT equipped. The entire country is covered with a broadband connection. 75% of have broadband. 99% of bank transfers are electronic. The rest is that you could go to the bank physically and ask for this. That has become very unusual. And 95% of income tax declarations made via the e-tax board. I could also not imagine it otherwise. By now, 24% of votes were cast over the internet. E-health is very interesting in that all your medical records are actually kept centrally. So if you go to one doctor and the next time to another, the new doctor has full access to your own medical records, to your lab values and anything like that, also to the prescription you have, because he or she can access that and see what the last doctor actually did. And that is of course very convenient, but of course it also takes a lot of trust into this data, because the publicness of medical records is something that will scare some people. And that is very important, as we will see. In Estonia it doesn't scare. In Germany, for instance, it's very much scary. The people would never let the government agency have all of their health records, because this mistrust the government, maybe not now, but perhaps in the future. This is not the case in Estonia, and so this kind of trust level is necessary. But as I mentioned, as any technology and as any large change in governments, e-governance also has a good side and a bad side, and so that the tunnels head at the side when the problem fails. So there's good sides and bad sides. Usually in the literature of Estonia, you get only people who like it, or only people who see the negative. But in reality, if you are complex, if you have a lot of complexity, you realize that, well, doing good, bad, and indeed, with Estonia's implementation of e-governance, we can already see what works and what works not, what is the price to pay and what not. And this is where I want to go now. That means I will look at those issues that have widely been discussed globally in e-governance, and I will see where they can be validated or actually negated by the Estonian experience. That I find the most interesting as the Estonian lesson, that we look at the good and bad as well as the neutral. And the first thing I want to say is one of the things that the more sophisticated researchers in e-governance know, but that Estonia is really confirming, and that is that M&S, like the stuff you put into Chinese food so it tastes more intense, e-governance emphasizes those tendencies that already exist. In other words, e-governance, some people assume makes everyone better, more democratic, more transparent. It does not. But nor does it ruin governance. What e-governance does is it makes a democratic country more democratic and an undemocratic regime more undemocratic. So if you will, e-governance emphasizes the vectors. And that is a very, very important insight because it also tells us not to impose e-governance solutions too fast on certain societies or governments that we would like to see improve, because the problems will increase, not decrease. A lack of transparency in e-governance will get bigger, not lesser, but some people will be in control of the kind of transparency you want to have. If you have a non-real democracy in which people forge results, give them e-voting, they can do that even more easily. If you have e-voting in a semi-democracy, the ruler will tell what results it wants, and you don't even have to forge ballots. You can just say what you want, that is the result you will get. So this is very important. But again, the things can be improved, but it is not a remedy against serious governance problems altogether. The next point, governance assumes the benevolence serenismus to zero. This is, if you will, something that has to do with that. That means that e-governance gives more potential power to the government than ever before. More knowledge where you are, what you think, who you are. A good government, in the sense of not good, smart, that is really interested in its citizens, knows more about the citizens often than they know themselves. Because with algorithms to find out what people think, feel, how they orient themselves, how they are voting, even if the people don't know it themselves. Remember that the finance chairwoman of Facebook says, our task is to find out what people want before they want it themselves. And the power of the government and the information about the government in this context is much greater than that of Facebook. And that governments we generally trust can't really trust it as far as information is concerned because of self-logic. Rule and information that we have beautifully seen in the Snowden case that was called the reliability and the benevolence not only of the American but especially, I would say, of the British government who do serious stuff. So that is something that we need to know. On a much milder form, this picture shows the German philosopher Hans-Georg Ragnar, the most important theorist of the knowledge of expertise. What e-governance certainly does is that there are no experts anymore. Experts are know more facts than the English population. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, you know much more than any expert what certain data are, certain percentages are, certain exports are, whatever. It means there is a certain empowerment of, if you will, work as far as information is concerned, and you don't have to rely on other people to tell you. The problem is, of course, that information is not knowledge, and the less expert we have, the less process knowledge we have in the public discourse, because everybody knows that it's know everything already, whereas not just information, not the knowledge or the competence. if you have e-governance, have to trust your government, but also have to trust IT guys. And to trust IT guys is also a legal thing. There is actually no reason to believe that people who work with information and communication technology are less gossipy and more trustworthy, less corrupt, more evil than human beings. But things, for instance, in e-voting, I'm very proud of the very first mandatory e-voting in the world, the first elections in Estonia, actually, how to solve all the results coming in. And you have to trust IT experts that this was legitimate and secret and safe, but there are 4 or 5 people around who could really verify that. You do need this trust, the need of trust. Trust is a good thing, but the need of trust is always a problem. As I said about abilities, one of the things we see from Estonia as well as generally is that good transparency can be increased if the top pushes it. That means we can have more transparency in procurement, in public services, in decision making, but only if the top leadership in governments also sits down there. You can also hide governments. You can have empty things and make the decisions really somewhere else. Transparency is important, and transparency is not always appropriate, and can really be established. And that leads to another point. Some people have worried that physical good civil servants, the Westminster tradition, is best in text or in the continent of Bulgarian administration, non-corrupt, well-working way, that this is endangered by too much e-governance either. It is not. If you have a well-working, very democratic, very professional civil service, then this work can actually be helped by e-governance in e-bureaucracy in many cases. Going back to the political thing, one of the things we have that political as tech power means the power of the IT sector and the political power combined with this incredible coolness of ICT creation of some cartel. In other words, if the government, the IT firms, and the public movement go together, it's very difficult to check solutions to whether they are really good or bad, because it's so good. There's a trend of the powers that be, and that is a serious threat to democracy that needs to be watched. I'm not saying that there is necessarily anything bad already, but if you have the main stream of politics and the main public opinion going in one direction, then on one hand is a good thing, but on the other hand also very dangerous. Then, there is a more neutral point as we see, all the needs are challenged by e-government, but not perpetuated. That means you have new forms of capital formation, new forms of revenue, of income, and so on and so on. But you can also use e-governance by keeping the things as they are, by allowing certain things which not, and so on. Very often, government solutions, as well as anything, has been adopted by the old elites, not by the new ones. Old elites get then challenged if they insist on the paradigm and don't go along with e-governance. The one thing that I would see as positive, but that we need to know, is that e-governance can increase the life quality for the middle class. E-governance is not a tool to make poor people more poor or to get the people in the barrios, in the slums. It is also nothing that helps rich people are rich anyway. They can have people have their own property. That's not a problem. But e-governance is a typical tool to help life expectancy, life profits, life time, for the class. The type of people who need e-health and who appreciate e-taxation because they are making tax application if you never make a text declaration, but your computer doesn't help you, if you have an arm of lawyers to protect declarations, it's also not important. But it's for the people who do it themselves. And it's no wonder that e-government solutions are being promoted by the middle class. Now, mind you, I think that the middle class is the character of society and of democracy in general. I don't think that it's something bad. To me, it is something good. But we need to look about the specifics of the appeal of e-government. The digital gap issue remains, meaning the more the e-government solutions and it's connected to the last thing, the more you disenfranchise those who are not connected. And that is probably few privileged people with access and the laptop in government see it as it might. You can say the other people go to the library or they borrow something or whatever, but if there's a class in society, if we have highly stratified society, e-government is not this better, but works. On the other hand, one of the things that can alleviate some of the digital problems is now the shift towards governance. That means to the use of e-governance, not laptop-based, but in a mobile form. Because our computers via laptops actually flow into each other. In a certain sense, the iPad wants this communication, the large smartphones and iPads are this. And of course, it is simply the case that there are much more mobile phones around. Many more people have one, and many more people have a 3G connection than have laptops. So the more you go, in spite of the security problems, towards any governments rather than e-governments, it alleviates some of the problems because more people have a voice. One issue is e-government thing heavily depends on politics. The reason why, as I mentioned in the I'll repeat it again, in Estonia you only need 20 minutes for text declaration is because the texts are levied in a very simple way. There's no progressive income tax, there is practically no deduction, and so on and so on. If you have a highly complex system, even to have taxation would help you much because you still have to think very carefully. It would help you with the calculations, with filling out the forms, but you would still need to know a lot of paragraphs, you would need to think a lot, you would have to preserve a lot of documentation, but it's very simple. That is more simplified by e-governance. One of the most interesting points on the Estonian e-governance that I would call a positive lesson. Very often people are cautioned that e-governance makes the system more open to hacking and cybercrime. People might hack your e-voting, unfriendly countries might try to use this, and this is not an issue. So far, there has neither in Estonia nor anywhere else been any cyber attacks that have not been early enough detected and have been rebuffed. I actually find it interesting how little there is actually issues. Certainly it's not more with systems e-voting than paper ballots that you send in. So this is certainly something that there's so much literature about the problem of e-government and actually for very reason. What does remain a problem with governance is the that is a friendly thing to say that if you look at comments on law and who discusses bills and who writes letters to the editor in online newspapers, it is very often people who have nothing better to do. And people have a very special taste in society. That means people who are the smartest and maybe even have mental problems of whatever issue. You don't get representative section of society to comment on laws, to write into textbooks, and so on and so on, but to get people that are not or representative or reliable. This gets, of course, worse if you're having anonymous functions. People can say anonymously what they want, but functions tend to be generally useless. Already the Swedish Danish philosopher Kierkegaard said that anonymity and anonymous opinions and the type of communication that you have in the daily press leads to disastrous results. Can be lethal, actually, for democracy. One interesting thing is that many e-governance solutions include greater participation of the citizenry. And what we see, and also in Estonia, is that actually citizens like to be involved in the beginning, or if they are very technophile. But in principle, all this citizen participation works much less thought. In Germany, we had a couple of attempts for a so-called people's budget, with people being able to negotiate what the city budget is, and they all or almost all had to terminate it because citizens are not interested in it. The point is that most people like representative democracy because they like to have a basic say of who is ruling them, but they do not want to bother with details every day. And this is an interesting thing. There was what's called People's Assembly in Estonia, like a representative assembly, participatory democracy that evolved to find out how the people want general laws to be changed, and one couldn't even get as many people as one needed to discuss it because they didn't even want to spend a day or read these boring papers. This political scientists and activists are usually too positive about the idea of how much citizens want to be engaged. The average citizen, I have to say, prefers to be well inclusive rather than to administer him or herself. The most important lesson perhaps that we get if we look at e-governance today, that is not yet case, but if we look into the future, information communication technology changes most crucially people, not institutions. All e-voting, all e-health, all of these things, e-text declaration or e-participation, they are important, they are part of our times and of the future, but more importantly, who the human person is, how we define ourselves, offline, who are our friends, how do we define our relationships, our loyalties, and so on. This is what is challenged through ICT. And that has a direct bearing also on governance. For example, if one of the main tasks of democratic governance in the last 200 years was the protection of privacy, of individual privacy, no secret and so on. Today, not only is this challenged, but many people, because the use of social media, share with the world facts that in the days they will have regarded as very embarrassing secrets. And that makes the entire point of governance obsolete or where it might need to change. So this is a very interesting issue as well. How to apply any of these lessons to India, that thought is something that I would like to do, because it is something that I would prefer not to speculate on. Obviously, there are certain points that you can look at this to put the Indian scenario up. A highly complex, very charismatic democracy. On the other hand, of course, a level of IT specialists, and IT fraud and solution that when I was there last time in October, November, really increased the rate beyond anything that one can read or hear. So on a technical level, India is one of the places in the world where things are doable because we could. That is just something. And at this point already, and Martin, I hope that you could folks to the slide and hear me more or less. Thank you.
Professor Drechsler, would you like to take some questions?
Yes, definitely. If there are any, I'll be happy to.
Okay. Any questions, please?
More important in this e-governance systems. To me, looks like what citizens or developers are completely far away from the systems that are built by governments. I mean to say that there is a huge gap between the citizens' desires and government heading towards some other direction. Can you please comment on this?
Okay, I think we have now my picture is gone. Okay. Of course, e-governance is very often a new enterprise. Now the audio has caught up. So very often e-governance solutions are not based on the needs, let alone the interest of the citizens, but on something that on the government representative level, the people there, senior bureaucrats and so on, think are good for the people. But that is very often the case with IT solutions. If you think about Facebook or Skype, there was no demand. That was created and then the demand grew. So very often that is the issue. And there are relatively few, but some e-government solutions that are citizen-driven. Citizens usually do not drive e-governance, but the government does.
E-governance leads good governments to better governance, and if it is a bad governance to start with, it will become a worse governance. Is it not the duty of those who are introducing various steps of the e-governance to ensure that all the methods of working, procedures of governance in the normal government, whether it is a good governance or a bad governance, should first be improved by political aspirations of the people before we introduce this widespread e-governance. We are introducing one start for all purposes, from getting benefits from the government or for voting or for normal banking. Is it a very good thing, or is it better in countries like India to separate the cards so that people don't get confused about it?
And also, for instance, bus driving is not on this note. It's only the signature that are both for the private sector as well, but you can't attach to that. In a way, of course, the ideal, picture ideal, is to have a unified card, and I have no doubt that we are moving towards that goal. But do you think if you would ask the people, if we talk about the majority, most people would actually appreciate having one card and not having to think not to carry or use, but just to use one card. But if you have really one card for absolutely everything, what it needs is an extremely high capacity governance and private sector to deal with this, and B, it needs an extremely high level of trust in both the government and the private sector so that the information that is necessarily shared this way is not used. That is a very rare occurrence, and I don't know many countries in the world, maybe 3 or 4, in which that kind of level of trust in all 3 sectors of society, if you also include the NGOs, does exist. As far as your first question is concerned, you could of course say that if you wait until a government is optimal, until you introduce e-governance, you never introduce e-governance. Because no government is ever perfect, you don't have a record of perfect governance, and there is government and there is always something better to do. Also, as I said, in principally very well functioning governments, there are many e-governance solutions that can be very, very helpful, both for the administrative side as well as for the citizens. I have to say, in spite of all problems, I would not personally want to miss the ease of e-health, of e-tax declarations, and of the digital signature. That are features that make my life easier, more convenient, much more trouble-free, just like Skype in communication right now does. Where I would see your level of responsibility is at another point. It is when you're aware of truly dysfunctional government, and you try to reform a truly dysfunctional government by borrowing other systems' governance solutions. Because often it is hoped that this will really improve the governance in this place. And this does not. And here it is the duty both of the adopters and of outside advisors, those who present the system, not to be too excited about their solutions. To take an e-government solution from a basically well-working, small, wealthy system to some system that is more authoritarian, more poor, or anything like that really spells disaster. You have to look very, very carefully at what e-government solutions transfer. This is why you can't have policy transfer, but only policy learning.
Go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Drechsler. I'd like to ask you that after achieving e-governance in Estonia, what happened?
Okay. Well, as I said, the production of e-governance in Estonia was twofold. So one of them was modernist positioning, and the other one was an improvement of governance effectiveness and especially efficiency. Now, the first was certainly achieved. Estonia is actually, if you open the Economist or the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times, you will time and again find references to the Estonian achievement. And also as far as an element, just one element of the improvement of governance inside e-governance altogether also is doubtlessly a success story. The thing is, however, that governance right now, the year 2014, is very much in flux. That means things are always changing, new reforms are always needed. There was a time when Estonia was a few lagging behind. It was the first one doing the solutions with e-voting, but then nothing happened for 4 and 5 years, and 4 to 5 years is a very, very long time in ICT. So, that was actually one of the reasons why Estonia was also, what Dr. Criminal said better, I think the first government that passed a law that can vote, that means voting from your smartphone,
finish it.
legal
Just
and
give it a
possible,
7-second delay.
Okay,
10-second delay, that's coming.
And so I think, as far as the general development of Estonia is concerned, on the E-level, if you want to position yourself as an E-leader, you can never stop. You have to, as it says in Alice in Wonderland, run in order to stay where you are, and run just fast to go ahead. And that is certainly the challenge for an E-heavy place like Estonia. Altogether, the general development of Estonia. The country by now is close associated with the fate of the European Union, which, globally speaking, even if you look at the euro crisis and other problems right now, as far as East Asia and the United States is concerned, the competitors is still doing very well. That means for the short and midterm future, life and security within the European Union, and that includes Estonia, is very high, and it is also a system in which e-government solutions and e-government progress is very much appreciated.
Sabha from Shadhan College. I would like to ask, how do you secure your card from virus attacks, and how do you handle duplication of data?
You know, I was brought to the field, and I was social science in reactants. I don't have any satisfactory idea that would help you. That is a question for the IT experts, and also for IT-heavy social scientists like Dr. Kramer. But the how to, and this is what I mentioned, for people like me, the exact how you do that with data and everything like that, is thing, how the encryption works and everything like that. That is it, does not do not involve. And this is, I have to trust techies, as I said. It's a perfect example actually for that.
From Germany, you have settled right now in Estonia. You have a very extensive exposure to China. You visited our country. If you have an option, where would you settle down?
Well, one thing is, and that is that the charms of Hyderabad are, of course, irresistible. So, this is a place that if you have been once there and you have really seen it in the best weather, the best opportunity in the day, you always will come back. But you talk about the settling down. That's something that unfortunately, partially because of e-governance and of ICT solutions, I don't have to solve. I have a place from which I talk to you right now, in Germany, and I have a place in Estonia. I can easily commute between the two. The plane between the two, Lufthansa flies now 3 times a day, and it takes 2 hours and a bit less. So this is not a problem at all. As far as the air quality is concerned, I would always live in Tallinn. But if not being able to live there, I should certainly say that I'm looking forward to being back as often as early as I can to India and especially Hyderabad.
Wants to ask you perhaps the final question. Sai.
Professor Drechsler, because you had specifically mentioned saying that with the private players and also the non-state players moving very fast on the e-governance space, there needs to be another player, the government, who is stable and who anchors different things. So why is it that the government of Estonia is moving so very fast in the e-governance domain?
A government of the business, that means the socio-economic elite and the people in the business and in the government are very similar, and even those who are classical bureaucrats, actually themselves more entrepreneurs, so they're very sympathetic with that. In addition, again, it is not always solutions, but it is also positioning that's very, very near to Estonian politicians. So even if they don't like any these solutions, they will still push it so that they look like the first ones to adopt it. If this is one of your main and very legitimate PR interests, if you will. I think this is the case, and you do also have right now in many cases senior bureaucrats and politicians who see themselves as techies, or at least are early adopters, and people who really appreciate IT stuff for their own sake. So this all comes together. There are no classical references to bureaucrats, or not that many people who in the heart see themselves more in a
bureaucratic entrepreneurial way and does serve general political and administrative purpose. I think that would be the answer I would give.
Thank you very much, Professor Drechsler. As I requested you earlier, we would like to keep this dialogue and the interaction going. And as I mentioned to you, I would also like to have a sustained program involving the schools and colleges with Estonian institutions, and I'm sure we can draw upon your expertise and assistance in this. Thank you very much. That will also give you some time to take off as soon as the presentation is over. So